Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Victoria Vertuga. How you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
I am so stoked to have you. This is something I'm so excited about, and I do have to say right off the rip, thank you to my good friend Gory Bits. If it wasn't for Gory, this wouldn't be happening. So thank you so much, my friend, for connecting me with this amazing human being. Now, I wanted you guys to get to know Victoria a little bit first before we start talking about the reason why we're here. Victoria is an actress turned writer, director, producer, lover of all things, really. That's horror and everything else, really.
Hyphens, you know?
What I love about this is you got really tired of the endless variations of the hot blonde, the dumb hot blonde. So you wanted to go off and branch off into your own thing, and writing your web series Disgraced, which was released in 2020 to rave reviews. You also have your pilot. Tides, like when you pay the church.
Yeah.
Okay. I am the English language is the hardest thing in the world for me, and it's my first language. So hey, I'm so sorry.
Sometimes it'd be like that, you know?
And then you have The Other City, which have been contenders at the Austin Film Festival, the Script Lab, and Screencast TV Pilot Contest. Now, what I want to talk about real quick, what really gave you that final push to kind of branch off from, you know, the stereotypical roles? You're a beautiful lady. We know that. You have blonde hair. We know that. But there's a whole lot more to a woman than her looks and her hair color. So what made you decide to use that beautiful brain of yours to a stronger advantage?
Yeah, I'm a person who doesn't sit idly by very easily. I like to have control of things. I like to be doing things. And I just wasn't really satisfied and happy with the opportunities that I was getting, and the kind of way that I was made to feel, not just in terms of the quality of the projects, but on the projects themselves. You know what I mean? I wanted to have a more of an impact, more of a say in what was going on. And so I think that was kind of just, I tend to act. Frustration is a big motivator for me. So I get frustrated enough. I'm like, oh, that's it. Something's got to change. So I just kind of was finally pushed to the point of frustration to do things on my own and create those opportunities for myself, you know, make complicated, interesting, dynamic female characters and tell my own stories, you know?
What I love about that is my wife is also a very beautiful blonde haired lady. And I get so pissed off when someone watches an episode that she writes and they're like, oh my gosh, that lady's so pretty. She is. And she's also super intelligent, super hardworking. And why don't we look past the looks that she has? So I'm glad that you were able to finally say, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to take the reins. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to create something that I think is worth watching. And while we're talking about creating something worth watching, let's talk about your directorial debut, Lexi, which is now available to stream on Tubi and VOD. And the good thing is, you guys don't have to search for them, because the links for those are right down here in the description, as well as Victoria's social media links. So make sure you're following her. Make sure you're checking out Lexi. This is what got us to connect. So how was it, your directorial debut? What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, it was very weird and interesting because it happened during COVID. So you know, like so many of us, it was such a strange time, and especially for those of us who are creators, everything was shut down, right? So there was no being on set, booking jobs, doing any of that. And like I said at the beginning, I don't do well sitting idly by. So I was like, okay, what can I do during this time? How can I make the most of it? How can I be productive? And so me and my writing partner, Eric, kind of were trying to come up with an idea of something we could do that was mostly just me at my house, right? Because that's all we had available. It's like, it's got to be mostly me at my house. So then with those parameters in mind, just kind of came up with an idea of a vlogger and influencer, because then you're able to use her own posts on social media, her own vlog posts and all that stuff to kind of help tell the story. And then I'd always been
laughing Lexi for you.
Exactly, good old laughing Lexi. And then I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Alyssa Lamb, who disappeared like in 2013 from the Cecil Hotel. There's actually like a Netflix show on it now called The Disappearance at the Cecil Hotel. But there's this really creepy elevator footage of her that went viral back in the day, like the last known footage of her before she disappeared. And it's from an elevator, like the hotel lobby elevator. And you can't quite, like, you can only see what you can see, right? Because it's just the frame of the security camera. So she's acting very weirdly, and you can't tell if she's talking to someone or what's going on, really. And I just found the idea of that footage really compelling, that it is security camera footage, and the idea of like what's in frame and what's out of frame and what we can't see. And so that kind of spawned the idea for Lexi to use kind of security camera footage, which I hadn't really seen done in a more comprehensive way like that before. Because there's just something, to me, inherently compelling about it, because you're just waiting for something to happen, you know? There's a voyeuristic quality when you're watching this kind of security camera footage. And also it was fun to play with the idea of like, what are we not seeing? What's happening just out of frame, or what's happened just before this kicks in? You know what I mean? So that kind of, that's what kind of spawned the idea for it. So because of that, because so much of it was me in my house with this Ring camera and whatever, like a lot of it was kind of found during the process of filming. There were things in the script that didn't really work in practice, and then ideas that I had during filming when I was like, oh, let's just try this, let's try that. So it was very experimental, and because it was just me, you know, it was obviously not like 21 days of shooting and here we go. It was like me fitting it into my schedule, you know, making it work and just trying things. So it took a lot longer to film because of that. But it was a very like interesting kind of weird process that I don't think will ever be replicated again. But there was a lot of freedom in that. It was both like a lot of freedom and a lot of parameters, right? Because there were so many restrictions because of COVID, but then the freedom to play. So it was kind of a good mix of both.
Well, and that's something that I love, because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not this guy that hates Hollywood horror movies. I know that's like a big thing, you know, to hate the mainstream.
100%.
But what I love is when you're doing these indie films, like something like this, like Lexi, is this isn't about making money. And it's not about anything like that. This is about my passion, my love. And I feel like these indie films, short films, things of that nature, they capture me more. And again, I'm going to go see Nope tomorrow. I'll go see Halloween Ends when it comes out. I'll see Smile when it comes out. But there's something a lot more compelling to me when somebody's telling their own story, and something that can influence you, like watching security footage. I've always said that the scariest things in the world is our own imagination. So when you're talking about the things that you can't see, there's nothing scarier to me than that. So the fact that you use that to your advantage here, and I can't recommend this enough, guys. You guys need to check Lexi out. Like I just said, my good friend Gory shot it over to me. He's like, dude, you need to check this out. I think you'll really dig this, and I think you need to get a hold of Victoria. We connected that night. So I think that it's amazing for you to do what you did, and you're out there making art, Victoria, and I think it's amazing, and I can't wait to see. I'm trying to be as non-spoilery as I can with Lexi, because I don't
know it's
want
hard.
Yes, and that's not, I don't want to do that. So I know in your business there's a lot of work with NDAs and having to keep secrets and stuff like that, but is there anything you are working on at the moment that you're going to be doing and you could talk about, or is everything kind of under the wraps?
No, I do have so yeah, a lot of times with the bigger projects you're auditioning for like film and TV, it's for sure. But the good thing is, like, I do a lot of my own stuff. So me and my writing partner, we had a film that we were originally going to shoot during COVID that we ended up shooting at the end of last year. That is in the final stages of post right now, and it's called Cold Blows the Wind, and it's starring Jamie Bernadette, who's a big horror girl that everyone knows and loves. She's plays opposite me, and she's so fun to work with. And
Jamie's amazing.
She's so amazing. I really enjoyed working with her. She's just such a nice human too, like such a joy to have on set. So yeah, so that we literally just got like the cut tonight of the first pass of sound and sound design and music. So it's in color and sound and music right now. We should have that very shortly. TBD on what ends up happening with that. We have some connections where we might get picked up by a distributor, or if not, we might end up self-distributing as well and doing a festival run and all that. So we will see what happens with it. TBD, but that will be next up for me.
Well, and I say this to everybody. I'll talk to you about that when we're done filming here. But congratulations on that. And Jamie, like I said, Jamie's awesome. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see you two sharing a screen together.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is going to be super, super amazing. And the best thing about all this, like I said, guys, at the top, it's my show, so I'm gonna say it again. All the links for Victoria are down here in the description. So you need to watch Lexi, but you also need to follow her on social media so you can stay up to date on everything she's doing, especially with her new project and projects that are going to be happening in the future. So in order for you to do that, you got to click these social media links down in the description and give her a follow.
Do it.
Victoria, we know now what you're doing in the future. We know what you got going on right now with Lexi, which you guys can watch by clicking the links in the description. But in order to become a part of the horror community, to make horror films and be in horror films, horror has to start somewhere. So Victoria, I keep wanting to say Lexi now. So Victoria, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Victoria, your first horror movie was?
My first horror movie was Silence of the Lambs, which I know some people, it's somewhat controversial take, but like, how is it not a horror movie? It's a horror movie.
My thing, and this is something that people that are repeat viewers of the podcast, I'm sorry you guys got to hear me say this shit again, but to me, horror is the hardest genre to lock down and say this is a horror movie. this isn't a horror movie, because it's got to be scary. I'm gonna be honest with you. One of the scariest scenes to me of all time is the Large Marge scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and that is in no way a horror movie. It's got to have death. Bambi has death, not a horror
All
movie.
Disney movies have death, right? So much death in Disney movies. Yeah.
Right. So to me, to say, oh, this is or this isn't a horror is such a subjective thing. So, but I don't even see how I feel the same way about Seven. I don't see how.
Oh, same. And those are two totally. And those are two of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, agreed. It's because it's like there's unfortunately somewhat still of a stigma, I think, attached. So when Hollywood makes these movies like Silence of the Lambs and Seven, they don't want to be boxed in as just horror. So they call it a thriller, they call it, whatever, crime drama, psychological, blah, blah, so but
right.
It's still horror.
Totally a horror movie.
Yeah.
Listen, if I'm walking through a jail and someone throws semen on my face, that's a fucking horror movie. Okay.
Yes. Hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna there's a good possibility the rest of my day is ruined. There's a good possibility that everybody I talk to, like, hey, I'm probably not the best day. Had semen on my face earlier. I'm just gonna sit this one out for today, guys.
Yep.
You go ahead and
Going
do your
home,
thing.
starting over. Yep. Mm-hmm. Resetting.
So, do you remember about how old you were, Victoria, the first time you had seen The Silence of the Lambs?
Oh yes, I do. I really do. So it's actually probably a funnier story if you're my sister. But so I don't know where my mom was. She must have been out of town because she would not allow this. But I was probably like 8 or 9, and my big sister's 3 years older, so she was like 11 or 12. And my dad thought it would be super great for us to sit down and watch Silence of the Lambs. And then about, whenever we meet Hannibal Lecter, he whispers in our ear to us, like, he's a psychiatrist like me. And that was like the beginning of yes. And we're like, ooh, and then we proceeded to watch Silence of the Lambs. And then this is so messed up. My sister goes to bed. We both go to bed, but we have different rooms. And he had been hiding under her bed and waits till she falls asleep and then jumps out and scares her. And she was literally afraid of the dark until she was like, I was probably still afraid of the dark, she's like 30 and she's afraid of the dark. So yeah, anyway, my poor sister, it was worse for her, but I was younger.
I want to say real quick, Daddy Vertuga, I love you. And I think that you are just so swell. I think you're an amazing human being and potential father of the year. So I just got to throw that out there real quick.
Yep.
And what I love about that is he's a psychiatrist like me. And tonight for dinner, we're going to have some fava beans.
No shame. No,
Right.
No appropriate boundaries for children. No, clearly not.
That's so crazy, man. And I do, again, I think it's amazing because, and this is kind of me being a little braggadocious, patting myself on the back, but I was so blessed that I grew up in a video store. My parents owned a mom and pop video store.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I had horror movies at my disposal all the time. And at a young age, I started with horror, and something I've said a lot. And I, unlike your father and Mr. Lecter, am not a therapist, a psychiatrist. This is not a professional opinion. This is just some YouTuber's opinion.
Yes.
I think the people that watch horror movies at a young age, that get a good education to go along with it, to learn the difference between fantasy and reality, I feel like they are more grounded in reality. They don't become serial killers or have this crazy, sick, twisted mind. I feel like they're more grounded because they've had the education to go along with it, and they're able to tell from a young age the difference between fantasy and reality. They don't watch a horror movie and go, well, now I want to go kill somebody.
Yes.
I mean, again, if you threw someone in a basement and you turned on Halloween every day for their whole life and wouldn't let them leave the basement, maybe then they might become a serial killer. But
right.
If you sit down with your children and you educate them about what they're watching and the differences between what's right and what's wrong, what's fantasy and what's reality,
yes.
I feel like those kids are the ones that are way more grounded in reality. Again, just my opinion, but
yes, no, that makes
good on your dad for being that type of guy, because I think that no, I love it. Like I'm the same way. Like my 14-year-old son, he could take or leave horror. It is what it is.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old daughter, she's on the spectrum. She's a little, like Chucky is good for her. Ghostbusters is good for her.
Yes.
My 2-year-old is obsessed with Michael Myers. She's obsessed with Jason Voorhees. She loves it all. Like she's a total horror girl. It's amazing.
I love it.
But enough about me. Let's talk about you, the reason why we're here. We know who you watched it with and how old you were the first time you had seen The Silence of the Lambs, but which scene would you say it was that affected you the most, Victoria?
I think it's that Oh, there's so many good ones in it. But I think for me, it is that shocking reveal when we realize like a split second before, the cast does that he has put that other guy's face on and he's on the stretcher. Ugh, I love it because I think it's a really, I mean, that movie is so masterful, right? It's such a great, there's so many great. I also love that cross-cutting scene when we think Jodie Foster is going to find him and she's at the wrong house. But that scene when he's on the stretcher, it's like we realize just enough. It's like that combination of shock and suspense, which is so good because we don't know so far in ahead that it's like this really, really elaborate, built up suspense, but we know just enough to have a little bit of it and then also be shocked. It's just great.
Well, another thing about that scene is you're thinking like, there's no fucking way that this dude died from falling down an elevator shaft. There's no way. What is going on here?
Exactly.
Like, he was just able to break out of this cage, do everything he did, and you're going to tell me that he went down
what took him out
by an elevator shaft? Come on. And then you get that reveal in the ambulance and your heart drops. He's still alive. What in the hell is going on here? And I can't agree more. That's a scene where you're just like, oh my gosh, he's still here. Like he's not dead. I was right. He was not on that elevator shaft. And Untitled Lambs, like you said, this is a movie that throughout the test of time, it's still beloved by not only the horror community, but a lot of the crime community, a lot of the drama community. And me and my friends, I have good friends, the Nightmare Junkhead podcast. And every single time I talk to those dudes, the first thing one of us has to say to each other was she a big fat lady? There's certain things like that still stick with us from this movie. So and what I love about that is this movie won awards. You don't get very often that you have a movie that is considered a horror movie winning awards the way that this one did.
So, I've been putting Jodie Foster on the map in a huge way, and just Anthony Hopkins is in it. Like, come on,
and he's one of the guys, and I love in this movie that you don't get. You go into this movie thinking this may be a slasher film, like from you hear the description of it, and it really isn't. I think this is one of the farthest things. I feel the same way about this as I do Hellraiser. The first time you go into Hellraiser, you're like, oh, Pinhead, he's a scary guy. It's a slasher film. And it's really the furthest thing from being a slasher. But obviously, as it goes on, you get more slasher with him. But do you remember what your favorite scene? We know which one affected you the most. What would you say your favorite scene from Silence of the Lambs would be?
I don't know. It might. It's weird. It's weird to think of it now with my filmmaker brain versus like how I watched it when I was young. So I can't remember what my favorite scene would have been when I was watching when I was little. But I definitely think that cross-cutting scene is just so well done again for building that tension. Like the filmmaker in me watching it now as an adult just really respects the craft of how they laid that down perfectly. And you see so many filmmakers try to do similar things to that and not really execute it as well. So I think that is just like a masterclass in executing the tension with that cross-cutting. It's just so nice.
Well, because at this point, you're not really sure. You think that she's going to be getting it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, yes, here we go. And then it's, oh, are you kidding me right now?
Yes, exactly. The ultimate frustration.
Sorry, my puppy just walked in the room. That's
it's okay. You probably heard one of mine barking like 10 seconds ago. So they're like quiet until you're on a thing and they're like, no, I have opinions.
Every time this door shuts, I swear to God, my dog's like, what just happened? Why did you shut the door?
Right, why am I being left out? I can't be left out. I know. Mine will cry at the door. One of my dogs has the most epic case of FOMO ever. She's like, I must be involved in all the things. You cannot leave me out.
Don't you dare leave me out of anything. No. That's so great. So okay, baby, I see you. So we know, what scene affected you the most from Silence of the Lambs. What your favorite scene is. Now, something we just talked about at the top of the show about Hollywood horror movies and how right now, really in Hollywood, the big thing is requels, remakes, sequels, prequels. That's kind of where, the money is, so to speak.
Yes.
So my question for you is, would you like to see the Silence of the Lambs remade today?
Hard pass. I am not a lover of remakes and prequels and sequels and whatever, like with very few exceptions. And especially when something is so good the first time around, like don't mess with perfection, let it be. I feel like they water it down and they try to take risks to like differentiate themselves from the original that aren't as good. So no, I like it's a masterpiece. We can, like you said, it stands the test of time. Like I rewatch that movie all the time. Like it's so good. It's timeless. So let's leave it be. Don't mess with it.
Now, here's where I'm going to come in with a little bit of defense here.
Sure.
I agree. Now, I will give everything its fighting chance. Like, I think Child's Play 2019 and Evil Dead 2013 are masterclasses in how to make a remake the right way.
Yes.
Now, even if you have a remake, a requel, a prequel that I may not appreciate myself, and I'll give you an example here. I don't think the Halloween 2018 was a bad movie. I don't.
Okay.
I enjoyed it enough.
Sure.
However, what I love about what Halloween 2018 did, and this happened with Poltergeist and Pet Sematary as well, and anybody who didn't believe me, look it up. When those movies came out, and I know for sure I could give you an exact number on Halloween, 31% of the sales of Halloween 78 spiked 31% when Halloween 2018 was announced. And
okay. So it's
right
bringing people into the yes.
Right. And so even if they do a requel, a remake, a prequel, a sequel that we may not enjoy 20, 30 years later, the positive part to it is it does introduce this younger audience that may have never heard of or had the opportunity to see the original back to the original, so we can get more of that to a younger audience. And I look at it just like a band that covers a song. If they did it shitty, you know what, you did a job on that song, but I still love the original. So
totally. That's very true. I mean, you see that right now with we have a lot of series and stuff that are like 80s and 90s nostalgia, right? So you see that with like Stranger Things will have a song in it, and then that song's back on the charts or whatever. You know, the same way like Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody for when it was in Wayne's World, whatever. You see all the time with stuff. So yeah, that is an interesting point. That is an interesting point about potentially introducing it. I just I don't know. Yeah. Like I if I was going to remake something, I would try to find something obscure that like I think the story was great but it was executed poorly, so I could make a better version of something that was like had potential but wasn't done, versus like touching a masterpiece. I'd be like, oh, the pressure, I don't want to compete with that.
See, and my thing, here's what grinds my gears when it comes to a remake, and I'll give you 3 examples right now: 1 remake, 1 sequel, and 1 prequel that all did the same thing that drove me fucking insane. And this is the remake being A Nightmare on Elm Street, the sequel being American Werewolf in Paris, and the prequel being The Thing 2011. Those 3 movies, what they did was, because those 3 movies, the originals, Nightmare on Elm Street, American Werewolf in London, and The Thing, are my 3 favorite practical effect movies of all time. Those, and you made a remake, a prequel, and a sequel, and you CGI'd it out, and you made it look like dog shit. So if you're going to tell that original story, go ahead and tell that story again. But like I said, Child's Play 2019, Evil Dead 2013.
Yes, be true to the, like, you have to be aware of what made it good, right? Like what drew people to it, what it gave people. Yeah. So if this is a movie known for its practical effects, like how are you going to come in and do CG on it? It's like, come on, give the audience what they want. Yeah, you have to have, and you'd think the people like doing this would pay attention to that stuff, right? Like do a little research, make sure you're like tapped into what the factors were that made it a success in the first place or made it beloved in the first place.
If you redid Jaws with a dolphin, it wouldn't fucking work. Right. I'm just saying it wouldn't work. You know?
Right.
If they're like, well, what's in the water?
I'm
not gonna get scared.
Yeah.
It's not gonna do it for me.
No.
So we know about Silence of the Lambs being your first horror movie and what that movie means to you. But now I want to throw a little bit of a curveball here at you for a second, Victoria. My little buddy Ghostface here has a question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite scary movie, Victoria? What is your favorite horror movie of all time? And you know what I love right now? The fact that you have to think about it, because I'm completely transparent. I never tell my guests I'm going to ask them this question. Yeah, because I don't want them to think about it. I want a genuine answer.
Yeah. It's so funny. I don't know, because I feel like there's like different tiers and they like scratch different itches for me. So like I love a horror comedy too, to be honest. Like the most recent one I thought was pretty fun was Ready or Not. But like I like some of the Scream franchise. Like for that purpose, it's you know, it is what it is, right? Like as long as the movie knows what it is. I don't know. I think it's honestly it might either be like, I think Silence of the Lambs and Seven are the most are the ones that I like. I like my horror. Here's what I will say. I tend to like it grounded. So like I like that those are very like gritty and dark and grounded. So for me, those are probably my favorites. But I feel like I just saw something really fun and crazy that I'm totally blanking on. that I was like, oh,
The
this is
minute we
really
stop recording, you're gonna be like, damn it, that's what
yeah,
it was.
every time I'm at like 2 a.m. I'm like, for real, I did a podcast like last week and I was blanking on something. And then I was like, oh, that's what it was. The next day, like posted a comment on YouTube. I was like, here's what it was. So I think it might be Silence of the Lambs or 7 for like, and for like just the gritty tone of it that like I always am drawn to. And I feel like we don't see so many of those these days. But like, I love The Exorcist. That's just such a good classic, creepy. I'm totally blanking on like some of the more modern ones that I really like. But I mean, yeah, I like the same Evil Dead you do. That's a great Evil Dead, and that's fun too, right? Like again, that scratches like the more comedy whatever itch where it has a lot of humor in it, which I love. So yeah, it really just depends. I guess that's a terrible answer. It just depends on what itch I'm scratching. What I generally don't like in horror, which I don't like movies that are like gore for the sake of gore or like stuff without like I need this it's like the writer in me. I need the story to be good. So like that's it. As long as there's a good story, I can get down with anything. But if it feels like the gore or the effects or any of that is like covering the fact that the story's weak, then it doesn't do it for me,
The big one for me, I think everybody has their triggers.
Yes.
The thing for me that I just cannot do is sexual assault in a movie like that. To me, immediately, especially if it's super, super graphic and,
yep.
Like and I hate to say this, it makes me sound like such a fucking weirdo, but you can do a sexual assault scene classy, like you see a door shut, what's happening
without showing. Yes.
I don't gotta see it for 5 minutes, like you
totally.
you don't have to shock me with it. That doesn't, I don't need the shock value. I can know what happened and still be just as pissed off without having to watch it for 3.5 minutes. So that's the one for me.
And that's kind of like just too much on your emotion. Like it's like, okay, we get it. Like take your foot off my neck, right? Like I get the hint. So yeah, it's true. And I feel like you actually see that used. It's almost like just a trope that's used too often, right? To set things up in motion. It's like I don't know.
The rape revenge story. It's just
another one. Yes.
Yeah, let's just do the revenge part. I don't need to see the rape part. I don't need to see someone's life be ruined forever. Like, just kill them. I don't want to see them get raped. I can't deal with it. It makes me physically like hot and sick to my stomach, and like I get angry. Like I can't do it. That's my trigger, guys. So if you ever want to trigger me and piss me off, that's how you're gonna do it. So Victoria, I do want to say that I've had an amazing time hanging out with you, and the conversations we've been able to have before we did this. You seem like one of the most genuine, kind people that I could ever hope to interact with. And you guys can also hope to do that as well by following her on social media. But before I let you go, Victoria, I have one last question for you. We're going to bounce back to the Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
And what we're going to do here is rank it on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, direction, none of the above. What we're going to do here is rank this movie on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being very effective. I think I know the answer, but according to my script up here, I have to ask the question.
Let's do it.
What would your ranking of The Silence of the Lambs
Yes.
be?
Well, again, being a very impressionable, like 8 or 9-year-old, it's got to be 5 skulls, baby. Like even still though, I watched it with my husband who'd never seen it, and like I think it still affects me that way. Just it's powerful. It's creepy.
This is the coolest feeling because my first horror movie, my favorite horror movie, the movie that will never be trumped for me, is House from 1986. That's my absolute favorite. And when I got with my wife, we've been together 17 years now. And when we first got together, she had never seen it. And when I watched it with her for the first time, I felt both elated and sad. Like I'm sad that it took you this long to watch the movie, but I get to watch you watch it for the first time.
And it's like the closest you can get to rewatching it. Yes.
Like
vicariously living, like watching them. You're like, I get it. It's so true.
And you do that, like that part's coming up. So you're like,
you say yes. 100%. And they know, and they're like, why?
Now I got to pay attention to what's going on here. Yes, that's so awesome, Victoria. Gosh, that's so cool. So I do want to say, you guys, the curtain's about to roll. We're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But make sure you're checking out Laughing Lexi over on Tubi, VOD. I promise you guys, you're going to love Lexi. It's a fun movie. which I'm trying to, again, be as
Yeah,
non-spoiler as I can.
Yeah,
But you guys are going to enjoy it. And make sure, like I said, you're following her on social media so you can stay up to date on everything that she has coming up. Please, Victoria, don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.